Good evening, everybody. Come on in. Welcome to the ABCs, easiest one, two, three of Kids Cash. I am completely dressed as a bear tonight since it's cold and dark and I'm hibernating, and we are going to be introducing another bear later on this evening. And you can see I got my little ears on. Welcome to the webinar. It's going to be outstanding today. And we are thrilled that you would take a part of your evening, your precious time to elevate not only your financial health, but the financial health of your children. My name is Veronica Dangerfield, and I am the Senior Financial Educator here at Patelco. And this is my next to the last webinar as I take off for financial freedom through retirement coming up in December. But let me tell you a few things today. Today is National French Dip Day. I hope you're not hungry. Served hot, tender pieces of beef or pork on a French roll make a delicious sandwich. And it's also, apropos to the weather, National Chicken Soup of the Soul Day. That's right, nice and hot when it's very, very cold outside. And the last day it is, and I'm sorry, you guys, it all has to do with food, National Pizza with the Works, except skip the anchovies. It was very, very specific about skipping the anchovies. So upcoming, you guys, next on December the 3rd will be our final webinar of the year, and my final webinar for Patelco as an employee, and it's entitled Building Financial Resilience. With the economy going the way it is and our government functioning very differently, I know that many of us might feel apprehensive about our future, but we're going to talk about financial resilience. We're going to talk about taking a break from the holiday stress and focus on having a positive perspective and enhance your emotional well-being and give you a financial hug, because I know you could use it right now. So remember, please use the chats for comments. Use the chats to welcome each other. You can utilize the Q&A for questions. If the chat distracts you, minimize it. And if you look on the chat, make sure that you're chatting with everyone. We want everybody to be together in our nice big community. So make sure you're chatting with everyone. And I want to also remind you that this webinar, you will receive a link to this webinar within a week or so after this presentation. So, so you can relax. Andrew's going to give you some amazing information. And also, we're going to be sending out gift cards. So, you know, I'm so glad you came to this presentation, because kids can learn valuable skills from a young age, and they start at 7 years old. And you know, you might remember your first love, but everybody remembers their first bank account. Oh my gosh, it makes me nostalgic just to think of it now. So I want to introduce to you our dynamic, smart, trustworthy, and amazing Andrew. Tony Robbins said, the way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. And with Andrew, exceptional communication skills, he's warm, he's fuzzy, and he also really knows how to talk about kids and money, because he's not so very far from being a kid himself. Come on down, Andrew. Welcome to the ABCs of Cash, Kids and Cash.
Thank you. That made me feel so young. I'm not that far from being a kid. That's how I'm going to remember myself moving forward. Thank you all, everybody, for joining us today. Thanks for joining us for the ABCs of Kids and Cash. going to be a practical look at how families can start early with teaching good, solid financial habits to their kids. Money skills are learned, right? They're not inherited, they're not biological. Nobody is genetically predisposed to being bad with money. So, starting general financial awareness young can really help build lifelong confidence with your finances. Today, we're going to tackle just a lot of tips for how to start young with your financial journey, ways to have these conversations, things to keep in mind. We're going to cover how to conduct age-appropriate conversations about money through all age ranges. And we're also going to talk about how Patelco can be a very great resource in helping kids build good financial habits. You guys saw in the webinar invitation that went out, we are going to have a couple team members from our virtual branch team available at the end of this webinar. If you do want to get your kids' account started, if you haven't gotten that savings account open for you yet, or maybe you have a teenager who wants to get their checking account going, we have team members on deck standing by today. We will have a link that we're going to share for you guys if anybody wants to sit down with the virtual branch team member, get that account started. Or if you just have questions about, youth banking, our accounts, we have a really good dedicated team of people who can help with this. The link that I am going to share in this webinar, when it gets to be that time towards the end, is going to be a link directly to our breakout rooms for our team members who are standing by right now, ready to help you out. The link that you got in your webinar invitation is just our general virtual branch link. So if you want to join our breakout room today at the end of this class, make sure that you use the link that we send you today. If it's something that you maybe want to come back to later, definitely check out that link that's in your email, or just go to our website, patelco.org, and search for our virtual branch, and you can schedule an appointment or meet with them there as well. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Andrew Farrell. I am a community engagement specialist and financial educator here at Patelco Credit Union. I've been in the role for about 3 years, been with Patelco for 8 years. I was in branches before that, so I have a lot of hands-on experience with our products and services. I really love financial education, something that I learned that I love through being in this role. But I think that money and our relationship with money is a part of life, right? It's unavoidable. Sure, it can be stressful, it can be frustrating at times, but it's always going to be there. So I really strive to talk about money in a way that is empowering and doesn't exacerbate what can already potentially be a really stressful topic. And I really want to encourage others to take as positive of an approach to their relationship with money as possible, because I firmly believe that we as humans get back what we put out. And I always plug this on my webinars as well. Anyone who is in or around the Oakland area, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. at Mad Oak Bar in Oakland, I host a free weekly trivia night. It is a lot of fun. Come out and see me. It's called Mad Oak Bar. It's off Lake Merritt-ish in the Oakland area. Free trivia every Tuesday, 7 to 9. It's a good time. I hope to see you guys there. I also really like starting every webinar with this quote: "The secret of making progress is getting started." The first step toward making progress in any area is as simple as just building the motivation to take that first step, whatever that might look like. Tonight, that looks like showing up to this webinar. So let's all give ourselves a big round of applause for just taking the first step and being here. I also want to say that if you are a parent who wants to get started, maybe being a little bit more mindful and intentional with money conversations with your kid, now is a great time to do so, because the holiday season is upon us and it is full of teachable moments. The holidays are already a time when money is super top of mind. You have spending, gifting, wish lists, family traditions, charity drives, you name it, it is out there at this time of year. All that makes this the perfect time to start conversations with kids about money in a way that feels relevant and not random. Kids are already thinking about money this time of year. They're making their wish list, they're seeing ads, they're asking for things. That curiosity is a golden opportunity to talk about saving, spending, and giving. And one last thing before we get started today, I would like to introduce all of you, Veronica alluded to it earlier, to Penny, the Patelco panda. I would like to proudly introduce you all to Penny. You may have seen Penny's adorable little face popping up all over your social media. I have seen her on Instagram myself. I would like to take a moment to formally introduce you to our brand new Patelco mascot. We are also doing a fun thing with Penny right now, where we are currently offering families the opportunity to take home Penny the panda for free with a brand new qualifying checking or savings account for your youngster. That is right, while supplies last, anyone under the age of 21 or under, I should say, who opens up a new Patelco checking or savings account will get a free, cute Penny the Patelco Panda plushie to take home and love and cherish and hold and cuddle forever and ever. For children under the age of 13, for those of you who are interested in getting an account started, we can open up a savings account for anyone under the age of 13. We don't need the child there. The parent will be joined on there with them. All we need is the parent to open it on their behalf, and then the kids' social and their ITIN. For children 13 and older, that's when we can get them a checking account and a debit card. We will need the child present. We'll need some sort of photo ID, a school ID, a passport, a state ID, whatever it is. So those are kind of the documents you'll need to get if you are looking to start this journey with Patelco with your kid. And again, just as a reminder, we will have some team members available after this webinar to help you get started or answer any questions you might have as well. And if you're thinking, well, that sounds all great, but I want this Panda, guess what? Our virtual branch team will mail you Penny the Patelco Panda as well. So it's a win-win. All right. I want to start by asking everybody a question just to kind of get a general vibe of where we are right now. Let me pull up this poll here. I am curious to know what feels like your biggest barrier to having financial conversations with your kids right now. Is it something that maybe you're not sure how to begin the conversation? Maybe you are afraid of it being confusing or overwhelming. You're not sure what conversations are age appropriate. You want to have the conversation, you just don't know where to start. Maybe your kids don't seem engaged. Maybe you're worried that you yourself don't know enough. Maybe you're comfortable having the conversation yourself, but you just want some extra tips or tricks or, shortcuts to having the conversation. I am just curious, what brings everybody here, and what kind of potentially are you maybe struggling with, or what right now feels like a barrier or a roadblock or anything that is getting in the way of you having that conversation, if anything. So would love to get your responses. We'll take another minute or so to see if people can throw their last minute questions in, and then we will see where we are standing. All righty. I am going to go ahead and close the poll out. All right, so looks like we are kind of across the board right now. Some people not sure what conversations are age appropriate. Some people are concerned that their kids aren't really engaged. We're going to talk about a lot of those things right now, how we can make sure that those conversations that we're having fit in with where our kids are in their lives. And hopefully find ways to make it a little bit more relevant and engaging for them as well. I'm glad to see not a lot of people were afraid about confusing or overwhelming their kids, because that does actually bring me in to my next point right here, something I want to preface this webinar with, which is we should all remember kids are actually smarter than I think a lot of us give them credit for. I think this is one thing that a lot of adults, myself included, really underestimate, is how smart and how perceptive and how observant kids really can be. I think in some ways kids can actually be a little smarter than adults. One way is that kids tend to be a lot more curious. You have that trope of a kid asks you a question, you answer the question, and then it's why. You answer that, why? You answer that, why? That is just kids' natural inclination to have more of like an innate sense of curiosity than we do. If I ask a question and you give me an answer, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking what you say at point value and moving forward. Kids don't do that. They tend to ask a lot more follow-up questions and have more innate curiosity. Kids also have squishy, spongy, soft little Play-Doh brains that can make learning new things, absorbing new ideas, picking up on new habits super, super easy. Their brains are very malleable. They are in those developmental stages where learning things is a breeze. That's why picking up a new instrument or a new language when you're a kid is super easy. So I just want to preface what we go over in today's webinar with this reminder. Kids are smart, often smarter than I think a lot of times we consciously realize, observant, curious, and they are watching how we handle money. So we have lots of chances to set good examples when we trust their intelligence, when we nurture their natural curiosity, and when we take advantage of teachable moments at a young age, when these moments arise, when their brains are the most, I guess, ripe for learning, we empower them to grow into confident, capable, independent decision makers. And that is what we are trying to do. So, starting young. When we say starting young, I don't necessarily mean, giving your 5-year-old a debit card and saying go crazy. I'm not saying starting them, throw them in the deep end of finances when they're an infant. What I'm talking about here is just helping to guide and shape your child's relationship with money in an intentional way when they are at an early age. So, first and foremost, a point I want to make, and I mentioned this in our Psychology of Spending webinar. If you have not watched it, I would recommend everybody go to our YouTube channel and check it out. Research shows that kids began forming their relationship with money by the age of 3, which is crazy young. By the age of 3, that is when kids start to understand that things have value and that money can either get or prevent us from getting certain things. Veronica also touched on it in the beginning of this webinar. Studies also show that by around the age of 7 or so, a lot of our core fundamental behaviors and values and habits and things like that surrounding money already start to take root. So if you're a kid and you overhear your parents arguing about money, or you're told no a lot when you ask if you can get something, even if down the road your financial situation drastically changes and well into adulthood, a lot of your emotional reactions to money will be what you learned when you were a child, when you were much younger, and when your brain was still absorbing information in a much more real, substantial way. And this is why early exposure to positive, productive financial conversations and examples helps build lifelong financial confidence for yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to give your kids everything they could ever want, and you never want to tell them no because you never want them to feel they have to want for something. Quite the contrary, actually, because I think we do want our kids to properly understand the value of a dollar. It just means that what we want to do is expose them to basic money skills and principles so that when they do reach debit card age, for example, or the age where they get their first paycheck, or once they enter adulthood and get their first credit card, there's already that solid foundation in place from them starting at a very young age. And one last thing I want to touch on here, I talk about it in a lot of my webinars, but I just want to reiterate that money is not something that, in my opinion, I think should be taboo. To a certain extent, yes, you don't want to have, dinner parties with your friends while all you're doing is talking about how much you make, but money is a very universal concept. Everybody in the world has to use money in some capacity. And so it's something that we should look at as a tool as opposed to something that should be taboo. It is so easy for money to feel like a stressor. Even if you're a family who's doing decently well financially, money always finds a way of making itself feel stressful to us. And when that happens, it's totally normal to have the response to feel like you want to shield your kid from that. And I think that's totally valid. But I also think that a lot of kids thrive when they feel brought into the conversation in an age appropriate way. Because they feel included, they start to see money as a tool, right? Something that can help them make thoughtful decisions as opposed to this big, huge adult secret that they're not let in on. It's about having visibility and transparency with money in a rudimentary way that can help kind of make kids feel a little bit more brought into the conversation and a little bit more like money isn't an evil thing. By normalizing money talk, even in just a small capacity, we take away its mystery and we can help empower kids to use it wisely. So for those of you who were not really sure what is age appropriate, this is kind of what I think is the flagpoles or the checkpoints for ages and financial topics. If you're ready to start making financial conversations a more emphasized part of your home life, but you're concerned about the kind of conversations to have, this is, I think, kind of a little guideline here. We just talked a second ago about how by the age of 3, kids start developing their relationship with money. So by this age, we should start having conversations or setting examples or using teachable moments about things that build skills that will help them with money management down the road. So this is, talking about or showing how certain things have value, talking about choices, right? Like you can pick this or you can pick that. Prioritization, if we do this, then we can't do this later. If we do this later, then we have to cut back from this now. Making these like intentional decisions that you can bring your kid in to the extent that like is appropriate. Delayed gratification is also a very big thing to teach at this age. I'm not sure if anybody has heard of the Stanford marshmallow experiment. This is basically an example of delayed gratification that was done with a bunch of kids at Stanford back in like 1970. It was an experiment where you would give a kid a marshmallow and say they can either eat the marshmallow right now or you can wait 15 minutes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, if you haven't eaten the marshmallow, you will get a better prize or like the marshmallow and something else or whatever. And then kids would sit in a room by themselves for 15 minutes and some would eat the marshmallow, others would not. It's an experiment you can do yourself at home to kind of see where your kid is on delayed gratification. But it's one thing that we should be like trying to teach or trying to emphasize to our kids that sometimes waiting is better. I will also say that by age 7 or 8, like we talked about, that's when kids start to form their core fundamental money behaviors. So this is the age where kids should start to understand concepts like saving for the future, budgeting in a very like beginner way, and needs versus wants. We will talk tips on like how to implement budgeting and saving here in a bit. I think allowance is always a great way to help reinforce ideas such as budgeting and saving. But this age, these are kind of like the skills that we should learn. Budgeting, obviously, again, not to the extent that like we have to budget for our mortgage when we're age 7. But you do want to start thinking about just the ideas that if I have a certain dollar amount, how am I going to spend this dollar amount? How am I going to like allocate what dollars to what? Age 13 is when a lot of kids start getting a checking account and a debit card. So at this age, you want to make sure that they understand the ramifications of that. They understand the fundamentals of having a bank account so that they can use these tools responsibly. So when kids become also much more exposed to digital money, online banking, mobile payment apps, Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, all that good stuff. In-game purchases is also a huge one. Roblox. I don't know what the kids are doing, but there's a lot of digital money landscapes happening out there as well. So this is the age where money outside of just like having physical cash in your hands becomes a lot more prevalent. So they should know how to use it responsibly, know how to understand that just because I don't physically have the dollars in my hand, leaving my hand, doesn't mean that money is not leaving itself. It's also around this age where kids, I think, can start earning money more than outside of just their allowance. Babysitting, lawn care, things like that can start to increase their earning potential at this age and start to get a little bit more money coming in as well. And then around age 16, this is where part-time jobs come into play. I think California legally you can start working at age 14 with like a work permit, but around 16 is when I think that part of high school we start to get our first paychecks. I still remember my first paycheck. Up to that point, I was getting an allowance that I think was maybe like $20 a week that I had to like really work for. When I got my first paycheck from Burger King and it was like $247, I thought, ooh, I have made it. And that's how a lot of kids feel when they start seeing actual real money in the hundreds of dollars hitting their bank accounts, especially when they don't have big bills to pay like we do. So this is where kids start earning money in a way that feels very real to them and to where they are in their life, which is when we can start then saving for independence, also spending for independence. This is also the age where they're getting ready to go off to college, which means they're going to have to start making some credit decisions soon, taking out student loans, maybe getting their first credit card in a couple years. So having those like credit fundamental conversations are also really appropriate around this time as well. Remember, as kids grow up, it is not just one big talk that you have. It is lots of little ones depending on where they are in their financial journey. Also why it's important to start young. If you lay the foundation when they're a little child, you can then build on it gradually as these, life checkpoints come up, as opposed to just trying to have one big, huge money management conversation once they start earning money. Now, when we're actually talking about money, for those of you who are not sure on how to begin the money conversation, maybe it feels awkward to you. I do want to share a couple suggestions on how to do it in a way that hopefully will feel a little more organic than it does for a forced. So first and foremost, using everyday moments is a very great way to organically have these conversations. Money lessons don't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be you like sitting down with your kid and having like a one-on-one conversation. It can be if you want, it doesn't have to be. There are plenty of opportunities that come up in day-to-day life that can be teachable moments. So if you're at the grocery store and you're buying store brand instead of name brand, explaining why you're making that choice. Birthday money, when you get like a large sum of birthday or holiday money, sitting down and saying like, what do we want to do with this money? How do we want to like spend this in a smart way? If you're online shopping or doing clothes shopping with them or whatever, we can compare prices. Again, it's about bringing them into the conversation in a way that's relevant to them. Another thing to remember is that kids are autonomous beings who have their own values, just as we do for ourselves. So it can also be super effective to frame these financial conversations around things that interest them. A great way to start with this is to ask what your child's favorite way to spend money is. Maybe you just know inherently, maybe it's you observing how they're spending money, finding out how they are naturally themselves spending their money, games, movies, clothes, electronics. Maybe you have one of those weird kids who just naturally likes to save all their money. I had a cousin that was like that. I'm very, very jealous growing up that he always had a lot more money in his bank account or in his little piggy bank safe than I did. But instead of trying to like drive home the points about black and white savings and things like that, try to make it a little bit more relevant to the things they already want to spend money on. Like if they like to spend their money on clothes, take them clothes shopping, say, this is the dollar amount that we can spend on your clothes for this school year or for whatever. And then you can kind of walk them through comparing prices, going to different stores. So they have to actually make the decisions and prioritize what they want to spend their money on because they have a certain dollar amount. If they like to go to the movies, which is something I like to do a lot, sit down with them, show them how much a movie costs, how they can allocate certain dollar amounts of their allowance or their holiday, so like a fund for that. It helps make it more engaging for them because we are applying their money and their own finances to something that they value. And you can tie it into real worlds. When you get older, you're not going to have me, your parent, to buy your movie tickets for you, buy your clothes for you. So you need to work out how you can factor this into your own money right now. Applying real world examples to things that they are already interested in will make the conversation feel a lot more catered towards them. Telling stories is also a great way to keep kids engaged. Humans in general, I think, digest information better and connect better when there is like a narrative. So sharing stories about your own first job, your savings goals, your first savings goal, even a mistake that maybe you made that you were able to learn from and bounce back from. These are all really great tools to apply these financial concepts to real world situations. These last two that I have kind of go hand in hand, and that is to be as honest and transparent as possible, and also to keep it positive and keep it curiosity driven. Obviously, we do not need to sit down with our kids and go over like our monthly mortgage statements, but if we bring them into the conversation a little, they will have a better understanding of why we make the money decisions that we make. So if we are out at the store with our kid and they're asking for something and we tell them no, or they ask like why their friend has this thing and we don't, instead of giving a half answer or giving like a joking answer my mom used to do would be like, well, if you love it so much at your friend's house, why don't you just go live there? Or the dreaded like, we're not buying this because I said so. We can maybe engage a little bit more in those conversations because when we close it off right there and we're shutting the door right then and there, we are also shutting the door to any potential teachable moment. And I'm not saying every single time that our child asks why we are not buying them something or questions our financial decisions that it warrants us giving them like a full TED talk on the matter. But if we get in the habit of, I guess, dismissing all of these requests, we are not feeding that like innate curiosity that kids have. We shouldn't assume that kids are always just like being brats when they're asking if they can have something. We should actually look at it as maybe they are genuinely asking why we can't buy this thing right now. So again, if you're at the store and they're asking you for something from Target and you have plans later that evening, you can say like, we're going to the movies this evening, so that's why we can't buy this right now. We're going out to dinner this evening, which is why we can't afford this now. Or conversely, like flip it. If you want to get this now, then we're not going to be able to get popcorn and snacks at the movies. That way, the choice is back on theirs again to kind of weigh their options and make their own prioritizations. We don't want to be in a position where like we're shaming kids for asking for things. If we take our kid out to lunch and then later in the day they're asking to go to the mall, it can feel real easy to be like, I just bought you lunch and now you're asking for more stuff. No, why? Because I said so. We want to make those conversations as teachable as possible. So up to this point, we have been focusing more on talking about like the practical side of money in a personal finance kind of a way, saving, spending, budgeting. But it's also, I think, just as important to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of money. So like I've said many times so far in this webinar, kids are smart, kids are perceptive, kids notice differences in what people have, which might then give them questions about like what money means and what the value of it is, especially when they are much younger. This is our chance to then have those conversations about money in a bigger kind of universal way. So first, it is super helpful to recognize with your kids that some people just have more money than others. Like I said, kids notice those differences. They know who has the newest shoes. They know who's going on vacation. Or if you are like me, when I was a youngin', we would go on vacations, but our vacations were always camping trips. It was all camping. We'd hop in the car. We'd drive maybe 2 or 3 hours in any direction, camp for a weekend. That was our trip. And then I would come back to school and we'd have those classes where it's like, what'd you do over the summer? And Johnny went to Disney World and Sally went to France and I went camping at the Indiana Dunes. You know what I mean? Like it never felt super equal. So it is, I guess, kind of important to acknowledge that money isn't distributed equally and that it's okay to talk about. The flip side of that is there are people who have significantly less money than we have. There were people out there who were much less fortunate, who didn't even have a roof over our heads. And it's important to acknowledge those diversities as well. It is not necessarily going to get your kids to stop asking for things, but it can help children understand fairness, empathy, and I guess the reality of like diverse financial circumstances. Also important to emphasize, especially if you see your child comparing their vacations to others, like myself, that a person's value is not measured by their bank account or the money that they have in their account. This can be talked about very transparently, just like that, in a money way, but it can also be reinforced by pointing out or like celebrating things with your kids that have more value than just money. For example, if you have a kid who is naturally artistic or creative or whatever, encourage that, foster that, let them know what a great value and how much worth there is in that. If they get straight A's, shout that from the rooftops. If you see them doing something as simple as holding the door for someone without being asked, make sure that you tell them how great it was that they did something like that. All of this reinforces the idea that things such as kindness, creativity, effort, work ethic, all that stuff matters much more than just material wealth. And lastly, especially again around the holidays, this is a great time to talk about how money can also be used to help others who are less fortunate. Remember how we said earlier, money is not taboo, money is a tool. One of that tool's most powerful uses is generosity, whether it's donating, sharing, supporting a cause. Teaching these like generosity skills early helps kids connect money to purpose and not just possessions. One thing that we did growing up is that we had a family piggy bank that we had kept in like our little family room. And throughout the year, it was an annual thing. So everybody, parents, kids would all, if we had change, if we had an extra dollar, would throw it in the family piggy bank. And then around the holiday season, the kids would pick some sort of charitable organization that they wanted to donate that to. And then the piggy bank we would take to a Coinstar, get it in cash, donate that money to the charity. So it brought the kids, again, in the conversation, picking a charity that was good that year. Also really helped me feeling like I was making a big difference. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that my parents were probably contributing a little bit more to the piggy bank than I was. But, you know, if we had a couple $100s, it was like, woo, we all donated a couple $100. It felt good. And it kind of just brought generosity and giving into my mind as well at an early age. So teaching budgeting and savings, once your kids are at that age where they are starting to earn money, teaching budgeting and saving works best when it's hands-on, visual, and value-driven. Allowance and holiday money right off the bat teaches are very great natural, like teachable moments. Real life contacts such as allowances are generally speaking more effective than like just random abstract arbitrary lessons. Holidays and birthdays also perfect opportunities to discuss saving versus spending, which is really all budgeting is. If your kid receives like a lump sum of holiday money, that can then be divided into categories if you actually take the time to like sit down and say, this is the dollar amount that we have. How much do we want to put towards whatever toy you want to save for? How much do we want to put maybe in like a long-term fund for you? How much do you want to spend on like going out with your friends? It's about like kind of guiding them through those conversations. Um, Allowance, also a huge way to teach not only responsible spending, but also earning skills. When I was a kid, my dad was very, very strict with his allowance. I hated it when I was younger. I'm very grateful for the skills that I've learned now, but it started with like, I think my allowance started at like $7 or $10 a week or whatever. And I had to actually earn it. Like he would keep a card for me every week where if I missed a homework assignment or if I didn't do chores on time or whatever, that would be a doc. And then every week we would sit down and have like an allowance meeting and he would review my card and say, okay, let's see, you did this week, but you missed this. This week you get $7 instead of the full 10. So it really encouraged me to like make sure I was doing everything right to actually earn that full money. Also, if I ever wanted a raise in my allowance, I had to like ask for it. I had to like create a proposal and be like, this is why I think I deserve more. It taught me about inflation. It gave me confidence to ask for raises in my adult life. So allowances can teach a lot of very real world skills if we are making it more, I guess, like developed or more intense, for lack of a better word, than just like you get an arbitrary dollar amount each week. Implementing visual trackers also helps quite a bit as well. Studies show that visual reinforcement increases motivation and increases persistence. Clear jars are the way to go for this. That's another really good tip. If you have a piggy bank or a jar or something you want to put away, make sure it is clear. That way you can visually see the dollar amount increasing. And you can watch your money grow, and it again increases motivation. Printing off like one of those big thermometers and coloring it in, that works too. You just want to be able to actually see the progress happening. Also ask open-ended questions about what your kids' values and goals are. Like we talked about, kids are autonomous. They have their own ideas of how they want to spend their money. This ties back to both fostering curiosity and also understanding what your kids value most. So budgets for kids are really no different than budgets for adults in the sense that the ones that are the most successful are the ones that are the most value-based. Like if I'm teaching to an adult that your budget needs to align with your values and you have to have room in your budget for things that you want to personally prioritize, why would I not teach the same thing to a kid who is at the age where they are forming their relationships with money and starting to learn their own money habits? I will also share a story about my dad for this. His strictness with money came into play here too, because he was very much like save, 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 save. Whereas I have always been a very big movie person, a big music person. So I would like to ride my bike down to Kmart. And even at the age of like 12, 13, I was digging through the $5 DVD bin. I was buying CDs just because I liked the cover art. And I think it would have been helpful if instead of being like, why aren't you saving more? The question was more like, why do you want to spend your money on these kinds of things? Why is this something that you value? What is it that you're getting from this? And then working it into a spending plan, again, kind of holding my hand through it and saying, okay, we do need to save a little bit. So let's make sure we set a certain dollar amount you want for these things and vice versa. It's just kind of about guiding your children to making those decisions. And while we talk about that, let kids make their own spending decisions. Let them make mistakes. Autonomy is key. Allowing kids to make choices, even mistakes, does teach responsibility and consequence. So obviously, you want these mistakes to be made safely, but if you give your kid an allowance and they're young and they run out and spend it all on candy, you might have the urge to like stop them, but we should let them spend all their money on candy. It is their money. They earned it through their allowance. They will ultimately realize that a week down the road, they're going to want something else and not have the money for it. And then you can say, like, well, if you wouldn't have spent it all on candy that one day, you would have had some money left over. And that can, again, teach them about trade offs and delayed gratifications. People learn better through real life applications. People certainly learn better from their own mistakes. So let them make those mistakes and let them learn from the consequences of their own actions. All right, so once it is time for your child to open up their own bank account that they can monitor themselves, this is the age to do that. Youth accounts give kids hands-on practice with real money management skills. There's lots of ways that you can do this. First and foremost, open up a youth checking account with a debit card. A lot of banks and a lot of credit unions offer teens accounts with like parental oversight, so the parent can be joint on the account with them and monitor the activity. There are also a lot of bank accounts that will offer checking accounts without parents on there that a 13-year-old can have just in their own name. This can teach them even more financial independence. Patelco has got a great youth checking account that I will talk about here in a little bit. Also, when they're opening up their first bank account, it's very important to discuss savings, checking, fees, money movement, all that good stuff. Explaining the difference between a checking and a savings account as to how it pertains to like your own bank account. Kids should also know that fees exist, right? That you might get charged like a NSF fee if you don't have money in the account. That some bank accounts might charge you a fee if you don't maintain a certain balance. They should understand the ramifications of having a bank account and how it might cost them money. And also just explaining that money movement is a part of managing cash flow. If they have a job and they get a direct deposit in their checking account, they might have to go in and manually move it to savings. Just understanding the ins and outs of how money can work within your bank account are important conversations to have. Utilizing apps and online banking tools. Teens live on their phones. A lot of adults live on their phones too. It's just kind of where we are right now in society. So showing them how to use these mobile apps to track balances, to set savings goals, and to get alerts can be super, super helpful. It builds digital literacy as well as financial literacy, and those two things often work hand in hand. A lot of online banking tools will have like savings goals that are built into the mobile app. So you can do that. You can set up a savings goal with your kid and then watch them kind of progress towards it. And then also, I think very, very important when people start to open up their first bank accounts is to talk about security and responsibility. It is a big deal to have a bank account in your name and to have all your money going into one place. So introducing concepts like a PIN for your debit card, why you should never share it with anybody, why you should safeguard your information, what can happen if you don't safeguard your information, keeping your information, safe, spending wisely. All of that is crucial to having conversations about opening up your first bank account. It's also a chance to talk about digital safety more broadly. It's an opportunity to explain like what would happen if you open up your online banking and you see that there are some charges that you didn't make that hit your account. What do you do in that instance? These are all conversations to have within introducing your kid to their first bank account so that they can make smart decisions with their first account. And then once we get to that 17, 16-ish age range, this is when money starts to feel very real. This is when we get paychecks, when we start getting money in the hundreds plus of dollars. It's when we can start learning about credit. All of that kind of stuff becomes a lot more tangible. So this is the perfect time to set our kids up for long-term success and to really give them the tools they will need to step confidently into their own independence and to lay the foundation for lifelong financial well-being. So when you're talking about credit basics and responsible borrowing, understanding that when you take out a student loan, this is what that means. This is how interest is calculated. If you get a credit card, you have to pay that money back. Here is how you can avoid interest. Here is how interest is calculated for that. It's all about kind of explaining the credit process, how credit scores are built. I can speak to my own experience again for this. When I first started college, there would be people outside on like resource fair days and whatever who were trying to get you to sign up for credit cards right there. And if you don't have any kind of financial knowledge on how those credit cards work, it's very easy to make financial mistakes at a young age that can stick with you for quite some time. We can also talk about comparing types of savings accounts, regular savings, money market, CDs, how interest accrues differently on all those. Going over a pay stub and reviewing deductions, I think, is really important here as well. Just looking at a pay stub, sitting down with your kid, especially if they have a part-time job, and walking through their pay stub, pointing out the gross pay, the net pay, the taxes, the Social Security, the Medicare, helping teens understand why their take-home pay is less than what their gross pay looks like. And then also introducing short, mid, and long-term goal setting is really important at this age as well. A short-term goal for your teen could be, I want to save for a concert. A mid-term goal could be, I want to save for a down payment for a car. A long-term goal could be, I want to save for like college or whatever they are, in their financial journeys. It helps teach short, mid, long-term goals. Also helps teach them maintaining different savings goals all at the same time and kind of prioritizing where they want to put money towards each of those goals. So these are all skills that set your teen up for long-term financial success into adulthood. And one final thing I want to touch on before I talk about Patelco's products and services is just to remember that money is an emotional thing. I've also talked about this in our Psychology of Spending webinar, how emotions can drive our spending and our relationship with money. And it's really no different with children. Money is emotional, especially for kids who are still kind of learning impulse control. Kids can feel excited, frustrated, disappointed, stressed, all that around money, same as we do. So helping them kind of name and navigate these emotions can build a lot of resilience and a lot of financial self-awareness. It's really important, I think, to validate their feelings. If they're feeling upset about not being able to afford something, saying things like, it's okay to feel disappointed about this, teaching emotional regulation, setting examples for yourself as well. So, showing your own emotional regulation when finances might feel a little bit more stressful to you, and modeling calm decision-making. Again, kids are observant. They are watching us. They are watching how we react to our finances, and they are learning from that. So setting a good example will help shape their emotional reactions and their emotional responses to money as well. Also celebrating wins. If your kid does save up for something, even if it's, a $40 toy they want to buy, congratulate them. I am proud of you. You were disciplined. You did that. Good work. Positive reinforcement. And avoid the shame or the fear-based language as much as we can, instead focusing on curiosity, positive reinforcement, no guilt, no anger, will all help our kids shape healthy emotional responses to money as they enter adulthood. So with all that said, we have got some great youth products and services. This is the QR code that you're going to want to scan if you've listened to me and you said, Andrew, this all sounds wonderful. I'm ready to get my kid a savings account today. You can scan this QR code. It will take you to one of our virtual branch breakout rooms, and you can meet with one of our VB team members right now who are willing to answer questions, ready to open your accounts, and get those things started. And then you can also take home Patelco Penny, not Patelco, Penny the Patelco Panda. Veronica also has a link to this, so if I move forward, she can also send it in the chat as well. Veronica.
Andrew, for some reason, I can't participate in the chat, but I copied the link for you. So okay, maybe you can put it in the chat. For some reason, the chat says no Veronica today.
Interesting. I'm not sure if I can get the link right now before closing out of this.
No, yeah, it's already in the chat. I just sent it in the chat to you. So if you just copy it and just put it in the chat for everybody else.
Thank you. I see. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to drop this link to the chat right now. I have it on everyone. So if anyone who's interested, that link that I just sent, it's the same link as this QR code. Just if I happen to move past this screen, and you want to jump back in, use that link. I will send it again at the end of the webinar so everyone can be refreshed on it. Thank you, Veronica.
Let me know when you're ready for questions. We just have a few.
Yeah, go for it.
One person said a lot of people don't use cash anymore, so kids don't find money important.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just the card economy. Yeah. I guess they would write things down so that they know that they're spending.
I would say also, like, just because they're not using cash doesn't mean that you can't use cash. Like, I know cash is not as widely used among like people's friends and things like that. But most stores still accept cash. You can still take out cash and do like allowance that way if it's something you want to do. I think cash is still really helpful with like having a piggy bank or something like that. Otherwise, like you can set up, I guess, savings accounts in their names. You just have to digitally send the money that way, because if you're under the age of 13, you're not able to get like a checking account and a debit card.
Do you have any suggestions for kid-friendly budgeting apps?
Kid-friendly budgeting apps, that is a great question. I actually don't off the top of my head, because the way that a lot of budgeting apps work is you have to link your bank account to it. So anytime you hit the age of 13 and you get your own checking account, then you can use pretty much any budgeting app. And most of them are kid-friendly because they're all, at least a lot of the ones that I've seen or used, are pretty intuitive. You link your bank account and then it kind of categorizes your purchases into like different categories. If we're talking about apps for kids under the age of 13, I don't know of any apps, but I do know that when the funds are not super huge dollar amounts like that, it's very easy to create a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or something so we can be a little bit more visual that way.
Another question, do you have a suggestion for investment apps for teenagers?
Investment apps for teenagers, I know Acorns is a big one. I have not used Acorns a whole lot, but I know that is one of the most popular ones. It has really good reviews and it has grown quite a bit. It kind of works the same way that like a Roundup account will work. So you link your bank account and then your change and things like that. Instead of it just going into a savings account, it will invest your coins in your change. So it's a great way to start investing with small dollar amounts. As far as like if there's a monthly fee or anything for that, I'm not sure, but I know that it's a very popular one, Acorns.
Okie dokie. This is probably a question we might have to take. She might have to send it to Patelco webinars. It says, what type of income qualifies and how do you document that income if you want to set up a Roth IRA for your child?
Yeah,
so
I would probably
child
send
has
that
to be working.
I would send that to an email.
Yeah.
IRAs, to my understanding, you can open up an IRA in your name if you are earning income.
Yes.
So I think your kid has to be an age where they themselves are getting the income themselves.
Right.
But if you have more like questions about the details for that, I would send an email and we can try to get that answer for you a little bit clearer.
Well, this is a good one. Can a parent refer a child under 18 years old to open up their own account to qualify for Patelco's referral program?
So no, a refer a friend does not work for anyone under the age of 18. However, I am glad that you brought that up. I'm going to talk here in a second about some of our like savings products for kids, and we do actually have a promotion going on right now that is specific to youth checking accounts.
Okay. There's just a comment here. Jamia said Dave Ramsey has a great methodology for budgeting for the entire family spanning all ages. So thank you for that suggestion. Okay.
All right. I am going to talk about our youth accounts. We'll start with our youth savings. So our youth savings account is just open to anyone. You can be a day old. As long as you have a social security number or an ITIN generated for yourself, you are eligible to open up a savings account. For those Patelco members out there who have other products and services with us, a money market select, the standard money market that starts at 2%. You can also open that up for your kids as well. So if you want your kid to have a little bit more of a kickback and earn a little bit more interest on the money that you're putting away in savings for them, you can open up a money market select for your child, your newborn, your toddler as well. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, no deposit requirements, nothing like that. There is the $1 minimum balance for the regular savings, but we put that $1 in for you, so you don't even have to worry about that. For a savings account for your child under the age of 13, you would just be on the account joint with them, so you can monitor the growth and keep an eye on their balances. But the account can be in their name, it can be their bank account, their money. And it's also awesome that you can add that money market select on there and earn some interest back for your little one as well. Now, the student checking, This is the product that we do have a promotion on, as we'll talk about here in a second. But our student checking is for kids 13 to 17. When you turn 18, the account can be super easily converted into a free checking, a regular adult checking account. But it has the same access as an adult savings account. You still have access to the 30,000 plus fee-free ATMs in our co-op network. There are lower limits. So our student checking account has a $200 daily spending limit on your debit card if you're swiping it at a store. It has a $100 limit on daily ATM withdrawals. So they can't go too crazy in a day with their money. There are some stricter limits in place. But the checking account for a student, they can either open on their own. So if they want to be on the account by themselves and really learn financial independence, that is an option. If the parent still wants to be joined on there as well, so they can monitor it a little closely, you can do that as well. If you're a parent and you already have a Patelco account, if you're joint on your kids' checking account, when you log into your online banking, you'll be able to see all of it so you can keep an eye on how your kids are doing. There are also some really cool financial education courses on Bonsai, which is a financial wellness partner we have. And there's some really great financial education materials that are geared towards youth as well, all available to our youth Patelco members. Now, this is the referral. So this is geared specifically towards student checking. For a limited time, when your team becomes a Patelco member by opening a student checking account with a $100 minimum deposit, use this code right here, R7BWNBFB. Open up the student checking account, put a $100 opening deposit in it. We will match $50 and put $50 into a regular savings account. If the team then also opens up a money market account, either our Select or our Plus, we will deposit another $50 in that money market. So it's a great way to give your teen a little bonus and a little, kickback on opening up their first checking account, and make them excited about banking, which is sometimes hard to do. But free money, who doesn't get excited over free money? Our mobile banking is also a great tool that is, used with adult accounts, teen accounts alike. You can know where your account balance is stand at all time. You can set those alerts for purchases. You can set daily balance alerts, overdraft alerts, transaction alerts, all that stuff. If you want to have a little bit more hands-on or a little more visibility in your finances, we are Zelle compatible on our online banking as well. Also, if your kid does get like checks from their job the old-fashioned way, or checks for holidays or birthday money or whatever, you can super easily deposit it with a snap of a photo front and back, using the mobile app as well. It's a great tool. Our mobile app is wonderful. I use it quite a bit. Cannot say enough good things about it. Once your child reaches the age where they want to start building credit, I think our Progress Student Rewards MasterCard is a great, great, great option. The rates are super low, starts at 12.4% annual percentage rate. And it's actually one of the only student cards out there that I've seen with a rate this low that also earns you points. So you earn 2 points back in every dollar spent in school and grocery purchases, 1 point back in every dollar spent in any other purchase. And you can use those points to get statement credit, cash back, gift cards, prizes, whatever. It's great because not only are you learning skills to have a credit card and manage your credit, but you're also learning skills about how credit cards can work and how they can benefit you as a credit card holder, how you can get rewards and points and all that kind of fun stuff. It's still super easily accessible with your phone's digital wallet. You can load it in and make your payments super easy. And you do have the MasterCard ID theft protection, so your purchases are covered. It's a great starter credit card, eligible for people who don't have any credit established. If you want to start building credit to your name, this is a great, great card to do so, to do it responsibly and to learn a lot of really good real life skills in the process. Also want to talk about our resources real quick. Any webinars, if you are interested in going back and watching some old ones, this QR code here will take you to our YouTube channel, which has all of our webinars recorded and posted. So you can go through our archives and look at some other fun topics that we've covered. We have our Small Talks for Big Change podcast available on Spotify podcasts and Apple podcasts. Fun little 20, 25-minute episodes also covering a variety of financial topics. And then some of our wellness partners, Spring 4 is a partnership that connects you with local, trusted, nonprofit and government resources in your area that can help you save money or save on any area that you might be struggling in. Balance, I went ahead. Balance is a great financial counseling platform that we have. And then Bonsai, like I talked about earlier, delivers a lot of financial education toolkits, financial education resources, and like modules and things like that. We also would love to hear from you. So if you have questions, if you need additional help, if you have more detailed questions you want us to answer, if you have feedback you want to give us, if you have suggestions for future webinars, whatever you want to tell us, we would love to hear from our members. We are always trying to learn what the members' needs are so we can deliver content that you guys really want to learn and that you guys are really hungry for. Please, please, please shoot us an email, webinars@patelco.org. Also, you can follow us on socials, TikTok and Instagram at PatelcoCU. Make sure your teens are following us as well. We're cool over here at Patelco. We have cool stuff for your youngin', and they should be staying up to date on all Patelco has to offer. With all of that said, Veronica, are there any last minute questions or anything of the sort?
There is not, but you did an exceptional job once again. Knocked it out of the ballpark.
Thank you.
We really loved every minute of it, and you responded as a child and as a parent, which was perfect.
You know, I'm like right there in the middle. I'm bridging the gap, as it were.
Well, Phyllis and Diana and everybody is saying thank you so much. So have a great evening, and thank you so much, members, for coming. We love you, and we'll see you on December the 3rd.
Let me drop real quick. Where'd my chat go? I'm going to drop that link in here one more time in case anybody wants to hop in. I think our VB team members are going to be around for a little bit longer this evening. So if you want to get started, that link right there, go ahead and say hello. They would love to see your beautiful smiling faces.
Good night.
Good night. Hey, you guys, hope you liked that video. Thank you for watching. For more financial wellness information, go ahead and click here to subscribe and here to watch the next video. Thank you.